"I know where your daughter is," said the janitor. The CEO turned pale instantly. "What would you do if the man cleaning your office late at night claimed to know something no one else could, something about your missing daughter?" And he was right. It was after hours in downtown Chicago. The building was nearly empty, the kind of quiet that made the hum of the vending machines feel loud. Outside, the wind whipped down Monroe Street, flinging bits of paper and slush along the curbs. Inside, the glossy marble floors reflected fluorescent light and echoed the sound of each lonely footstep. Harold Lane didn't usually stay this late. But deadlines don't wait, and billion-dollar clients don't sleep. He leaned back in the ergonomic leather chair of his corner office, a half-empty bottle of water on his desk, fingers trembling as he scrolled through old photos on his phone. His daughter, Anna, just 11, had been gone for 6 weeks. Vanished from their backyard in Oak Brook. No trace. No note. No hope. Not anymore. The police had done what they could. The media had moved on. His ex-wife had stopped answering his calls. Harold buried himself in work. He couldn't bear to sit in that silent house. Not without her laugh echoing down the hallway. Somewhere down the hallway, a low mechanical whir broke the silence. The floor polisher. Same time every night. But tonight, it stopped early. Then a soft knock. Harold turned slowly. In the doorway stood the janitor, gray coveralls, mop in one hand, cap pulled low. He was new. Maybe mid-50s. A bit hunched, like life had been heavy on his shoulders for a long time. No name tag. Just tired eyes. Harold furrowed his brow. "Can I help you?" The janitor didn't step in. Didn't smile. "I know where your daughter is," he said, voice low but clear. Harold froze. Not because he was confused. Not even angry. Because of the way the man said it, like a fact, not a question. Calm. Certain. Measured. "What did you just say?" Harold's voice was barely a whisper. "I said, I know where your daughter is." The room didn't spin, but something in Harold's chest dropped. He stared at the man, at his dusty boots, at the mop streaked with dirty water, at the silence that seemed to grow between them like smoke. And then, he stood. Slowly. Eyes locked. "If this is some sick joke. I swear to God." "I'm not joking," the janitor said. Still not smiling. Still not blinking. And in that moment, Harold saw it, something behind the man's tired eyes. Not madness. Not a scam. Something worse. A secret. Harold Lane ran a hand through his graying hair, the stress etched deep into the lines on his forehead. His tailored navy suit, once crisp, now looked slightly rumpled from hours hunched over spreadsheets and endless phone calls. The weight of the missing months had worn on him, not just physically, but in the way his eyes flickered with exhaustion, always searching, never resting. His usual confident posture was replaced by a hesitant slump, as if carrying a burden far heavier than any boardroom decision. The janitor, whose name Harold had learned was Mike, stood quietly in the dim light. His face was weathered but kind, the kind of kindness that didn't come from easy days but from years of hard work and watching the world pass by unnoticed. His hands were calloused, nails trimmed rough, holding the mop with a quiet strength. Mike's clothes were stained, the faded blue of his uniform blending into the shadows, but there was something steady in his gaze, a calm that suggested he'd seen things most people didn't, and maybe, just maybe, knew how to fix them. Mike's movements were slow but purposeful, a stark contrast to Harold's jittery energy. He shifted the mop to lean against the wall and took a small step forward, the creak of his boots barely audible over the distant city sounds. There was no urgency in his tone, yet his words carried weight, like a man who had lived through pain and loss and was now offering a sliver of hope wrapped in quiet truth. Both men, standing so close yet worlds apart, were connected in that moment by one impossible thread, a missing daughter, and a secret waiting to be revealed. Harold was fumbling with his phone, eyes darting nervously between the screen and the janitor standing near the elevator. He barely noticed Mike approach until a low, steady voice cut through the hum of the building. Mr. Lane, Mike said, his tone calm but unmistakably certain, I know where your daughter is. Harold froze mid-step, the phone slipping from his grasp. His heart slammed against his ribs, disbelief and hope crashing together like waves. What did you say? His voice cracked, a mix of skepticism and desperation. Mike didn't flinch. He looked Harold directly in the eyes, his steady gaze unwavering. I'm not here to scare you or waste your time. I've been cleaning this building longer than you've been CEO. I see things, hear things, things that others overlook. Harold swallowed hard, struggling to steady his breathing. If you're messing with me, no, Mike interrupted gently, I'm not. Mike reached into his uniform pocket and pulled out a small, crumpled photo. Harold's breath caught as he recognized the face, his daughter, Emily, smiling despite the tears that had long haunted his memories. I've been tracking her for weeks, Mike said quietly. She's alive, but she's not where anyone thinks. I can help you find her. But you have to trust me. Harold's mind raced, this was the breakthrough he'd prayed for, yet it sounded too impossible to believe. The janitor's words hung heavy in the sterile hallway, the weight of hope and fear twisting inside him like a storm ready to break. Harold looked at Mike, searching for any sign of a trick, a scam, anything to dismiss this impossible offer. But all he saw was a man who'd stepped out of the shadows with a secret that could change everything. After a long pause, Harold nodded slowly. Okay. Tell me everything. Harold's mind was a battlefield. Part of him screamed that this was a cruel joke, just another dead end in the nightmare he'd been living since Emily disappeared. But another part, the desperate father clinging to every fragile thread of hope, urged him to listen, to believe. The photo in Mike's hand burned in his vision like a lifeline. 4 days afterward, Harold wrestled with himself. He scoured every lead from the police, pressed his assistants for updates, but nothing matched the quiet certainty in Mike's voice. Could he really trust a janitor? What if this was just a fantasy, a cruel twist of fate? But the nagging truth was, no one else had answers. Mike had something they didn't. Finally, Harold agreed to follow Mike's lead. The janitor's information was vague but specific, mentions of a rundown motel on the outskirts of the city, whispers of a woman matching Emily's description seen with a stranger. Each clue felt like threading a needle through fog, uncertain but vital. The first visit was rough. Harold's sleek city suit made him stand out against the peeling paint and flickering neon lights of the motel. Mike moved with quiet confidence, knowing the place like the back of his hand, while Harold's heart pounded with every shadow that seemed to lurk just beyond sight. They knocked on doors, asked quiet questions, met wary faces. Each no felt like a punch, every closed door a wall between him and his daughter. But Mike remained steady, calm in the storm, encouraging Harold to keep going when doubt threatened to consume him. Harold's nights were restless, haunted by flashes of Emily's smile and the emptiness of her absence. He replayed every conversation with Mike, every detail, searching for clues, trying to separate fact from hope. The tension built as small pieces began to fit together, a fleeting glimpse of Emily's favorite bracelet found in a trash bin, a neighbor recalling a young woman fitting her description. But with each breakthrough came setbacks, a false lead, a cold trail, a locked door slammed shut. Doubt gnawed at Harold's resolve, testing every ounce of his strength and faith. Still, beneath the exhaustion and fear, something shifted inside him, a flicker of belief that maybe, just maybe, this janitor held the key to finding his daughter alive. Days turned into restless nights for Harold, haunted by the fragments of hope and fear swirling in his mind. Each lead Mike uncovered pulled him deeper into a world far removed from the polished boardrooms he was used to, a world of cracked sidewalks, whispered rumors, and shadows where Emily might be hiding. The janitor's quiet confidence clashed with the raw desperation etched across Harold's face. One evening, Mike led Harold to a rundown shelter, the kind of place where people slipped through cracks in the system and vanished from sight. Harold's heart clenched as he stepped inside, the stale air thick with stories of loss and survival. He scanned the dim faces, searching for any sign of Emily, but found only strangers and silence. Then came the blow, a woman matching Emily's description had been there days ago but left with a man nobody recognized. The news hit Harold like a punch to the gut. The sliver of hope he'd been holding on to threatened to snap. He struggled to keep the faith as Mike worked tirelessly, speaking softly to anyone who might know, piecing together fleeting memories like a fragile mosaic. Harold's frustration bubbled up, spilling over in sharp words and moments of silence that weighed heavy between them. One night, alone in his sleek apartment, Harold stared at the last photo of Emily on his desk. Tears he hadn't allowed himself to shed welled up. The perfect life he'd built felt like a distant dream, shattered by the harsh reality of not knowing where his daughter was. But through the darkness, Mike's steadfast belief became a beacon. Despite every setback, every dead end, he refused to give up. His quiet resolve challenged Harold to hold on to hope, to fight past the pain and uncertainty. "Harold," Mike said quietly, "I found something. A woman saw Emily near an old community center on Pine Street last weekend. She was with a man, looks like someone new, someone nobody around here knows." Without hesitation, they drove through the city's tangled streets, Mike navigating with a familiarity Harold could only envy. The community center was a dilapidated building, its paint peeling and windows boarded up, but it was still alive with occasional activity, kids playing outside, neighbors chatting on stoops. Inside, Harold felt a strange sense of déjà vu, a mix of vulnerability and determination washing over him. Mike spoke to a few people, flashing Emily's photo, asking quietly if they'd seen her. Then, a woman named Karen stepped forward, her eyes full of cautious hope. "Yes, I saw her," Karen said, voice trembling. "She looked scared but alive. She was with a man I didn't recognize, but he seemed kind." Harold's heart pounded as Mike arranged for a discreet stakeout around the center. Night fell, shadows stretching long and cold, but they waited, eyes scanning every face that emerged from the gloom. And then, just before midnight, a small figure appeared, a girl with familiar brown hair and hesitant steps. Harold's breath caught. It was Emily. She looked fragile, but she was alive. Tears streamed down Harold's face as he took a tentative step forward. Emily's eyes met his for the first time in what felt like forever, a silent, powerful connection sparking between them. The impossible was happening. Mike's quiet smile told Harold everything. This was just the beginning, but it was real. They had found her. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to smash that thumbs up and hit subscribe for more unforgettable, emotional, and viral true stories. We want to hear from you. Drop a comment and tell us, where in the world are you watching from?